Alloy mixtape coming soon. Yeah, I've been out of the music game for a while. I don't know if I'm gonna have any mixtapes coming. He's gonna jump scare us. All right. We need those unreleased beat tracks. Maybe he can do what Wu-Tang did. And it goes to the highest bidder. Yeah, I don't think there'd be too many bids. If I told you how many albums I sold, I don't know if you'd want to hear the album. All right. So what was the last thing you guys heard me say? Did I get to It's All About Desire? Did we talk about that? I was keeping an eye on the stream over here, trying to watch for when it crashed, but of course I missed it. Go ahead and leave me a comment. Either Anna Jolly or anybody actually can leave me a comment. Let me know what happened or what I left off on so that I can jump right back into it. And if not, then I can just pick up where I think I left off and we can go from there. Let's see if any other questions came in while I'm talking here. Let's see. Rockin' song. Yeah, it was. We were talking about wanting it bad enough to hurt. Okay, I got there before I did Galactic. Oh no, I told you the Joker's identity. Talking about college days and budgets. Okay. Yeah. So, anyway, I think I told you guys about the thing where my brother had to send me $600 to pay my rent back when I first was living on my own because I mismanaged my money. But the point there was, if I had done a little bit of reading or got some knowledge from someone that was more knowledgeable than me, maybe even my brother, I would have never gotten into that predicament. But when I got there, I was hungry and desperate enough to humble myself and ask for help. And what I'm trying to help you all do is get there now, not have to learn by spending years doing this. You know, if anybody ever tells you, and of course I'm being facetious here, if anybody ever tells you that, well, you just got to make mistakes so you can learn, I wish like one day a year we could just punch people in the face. Like not hurt them, but just to let them know that was dumb, what you just said. You know what I mean? Kind of like the people that take forever to walk across the street when they see your car, and they even have the nerve to look at you. Like, if you just run one person over with a car every year, and it'd be okay. That's who I'd run over. But it's not necessarily bad advice. You do learn from mistakes, but no one ever said you had to learn from your mistakes. You know, a lot of the mistakes I learned from were watching people in my father and people in my family and other professionals. Watching, one of my mentors, I asked him, what did you do wrong back when you were first getting started? And he lays it out like, bam, you got to do this, you got to do that. You got to start getting, like one of the things he sat me down and really schooled me on, because I've always been good at doing it for other people's businesses, but I never really applied it directly to mine, was he's like, dude, you got to get your system set up for this and this and this and this. And it was one of those things where I was procrastinating. I knew I needed to do it, but then he really harped on it like, dude, you got to have this in place. Let's go. I'm like, all right, roger that. I got to do it. So, but, you've got to want, and it's whatever your goal is when we're talking about what you want, whether it's to lose weight, whether it's to have a big YouTube channel, you have to want it bad enough, not because just wanting and wishing for it is going to bring it to you, because it's not. But I find that people who really want something bad enough find a way to do it. So it's like the same, going back to the procrastinators, the people who tell me, I just haven't had time. Yes, you have. The I don't have time excuse, I don't believe in it. And the reason why is because I look at my own life. And I have numerous children, some of which are very young and require constant supervision. I have 2 businesses that our family is running. I have family responsibilities. I work for charities. I work for outreach. I don't work for the charity. Like, I don't get paid. Like, I work with charities. I do charity outreach of my own. I work with veteran support programs for people, for guys that aren't as lucky as I am to have all of my body working still. I do all of these things, yet I still have time to get all my videos done. And by the way, I do a lot of videos every week. And I still have time to do my business work and to do the best I can to keep people who patronize my business happy, not just getting customers, but delivering value to my customers. Don't tell me, if you're a single person, if you're single, don't even open your mouth and tell me that you didn't have time. Unless your house burnt down last night with whatever you were supposed to be doing in it, or like you have some, there are extenuating circumstances, okay? I'm not saying it's black and white. What I'm trying to get you to do is stop making excuses for your lazy procrastination. And the reason why you procrastinate and you don't do it and you use here's what I want you to start saying from now on. When someone asks you, did you do X? You'd be like, this is the way I want you to answer it, because it's going to force you to be humble and change your behavior, because you're going to hate saying it. From now on, here's what I want you to say. No, I didn't make time for that yet, or, I prioritized some other things in front of it. Okay? That's going to force you to rethink this I don't have time nonsense. It's BS, and it's an excuse that we delusionally tell ourselves to make ourselves feel good about not accomplishing things. Okay? It's the kind of bedtime story we tell ourselves to go to sleep at night so that we don't have bad dreams. Stop it. Cut the I don't have, because don't tell me you didn't have time. Not the guy running several enterprises, helping here, having kids here, doing all this different stuff. You know what I mean? Oh, by the way, I have an older family member that I try to help take care of, right? Don't. I spend time every week bringing you guys knowledge sessions. Don't tell me you didn't have time. If I have time to sit here and talk to you for 3 hours, you have time to do whatever the thing is that you've been putting off and making excuses about. So cut it out. But, part of that, again, starts with having the desire. The part of the problem isn't that you just have trouble procrastinating. It's not that simple. Your desire isn't strong enough to go through the hurt. And part of the hurt that you've got to get used to going through, the reason why you're struggling a little bit is because you're afraid of the failure and the ridicule if it goes wrong. I'll give you an example of something in my life. I have been putting off for years, I have an open invitation, by the way, from friends of mine who've been in entertainment for a long time. I have an open invitation to come to what I consider to be a very good event in my city and just do open mic comedy. I've been wanting to get on stage and do stand-up comedy for years, and I've been putting it off and putting it off and putting it off and making every excuse in the book. Now, granted, a lot of those ideas came before what I'm doing now, where my time is very limited. And like right now in my life, I physically could not do it because I won't prioritize it over some other things that are way more important. Okay? So I'm not saying if you do have other priorities, it's fine, but you got to find a way to make room for the things that are going to help you get to where you're trying to go. Doing stand-up comedy is just a personal goal of mine. It's not something that's going to help me, be a multi-billionaire or whatever. Or really, my goal is not to be a multi-billionaire. It's to help change lives. But you can't change very many lives without money. Okay, so you have to want it bad enough. And I share my failures and I share my struggles with you, not just so you can know I'm human too, but so that you can learn from my mistakes. Anyone that's been around me long enough knows I share my mistakes all the time because I want you not to make them. And part of that comes from, having a partial recon mentality where you're going out to find bad guys and traps so that you can come back and tell your boys, here's where all the traps are. It comes from a lot of who I am, but also a lot of my training over the years, right? So, anyway, you have to want it bad enough to go through the pain of potential failure, okay? A lot of you are procrastinating on getting your YouTube channel started because you're afraid that someone's going to hate it or not like it or it's not going to succeed. Well, if I wanted to make a fifth category down here, if you want to be guaranteed to fail, do nothing. That's guaranteed failure. Unless your goal is doing nothing, that's the fifth type that is guaranteed 100% to fail at anything is the people that do nothing. Okay, so stop making excuses and stop being afraid to fail, because here's the deal. Let me reframe your mind on this too. Not only is desire part of your issue. I'm going to erase this. I want you guys to burn this into your mind. Okay? 2. There is no failure. So the caveat here is, if you do nothing, that is failure. But if you set a goal, and let's say your goal is to get to, imagine some of you have a goal of like 1,000 YouTube subscribers or 10,000 YouTube subscribers. Let's say that's your goal. If you don't get there tomorrow, it's not failure. If you put up a video tomorrow that only gets 14 views, that's not failure. If you put up a video the day after that that only gets 13 views, it's not failure. There is no failure. Okay? Just like in The Matrix, the best movie ever made, or my favorite movie. There is no spoon. Think deep on that. There is no failure. Because I went into the gym with a goal of being able to set 500 pounds. I didn't reach that goal. Why? Because my joints couldn't take that much weight. I could take the power of it, but I was starting to injure myself in the way that I was training, to the point where I had to stop. Otherwise, I was afraid to do long-term damage, and it wasn't worth it just to be able to tell all my friends I bench pressed a car. Right? I got over 400, but I never made it to 5. But it's not failure, because see, I made it over 400. How many people in their whole life ever make it over 200, let alone 300 or 4? You know, I'm in a class of probably less than 100,000 people who could bench press that much weight. And maybe it's more. Maybe it's 1 million people. I don't know. There's 7 billion people on the planet. I imagine there's probably quite a few people who could bench 500 pounds. But neither here nor there. Nobody who, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, didn't come to me and say, you know what, B, I'm disappointed, man. You know, you set that 500-pound goal and you didn't get there. You're a failure. No, if Arnold Schwarzenegger saw me in the gym, I've actually seen Arnold Schwarzenegger egg on other guys. He's one of the most encouraging dudes I've ever seen in the gym. And it's funny because I've met him twice. I actually met him as a child. I don't remember it because I was really young. And then that was when, I don't think he was still competing at the time. I think he was a movie star by the time I met him, because didn't he stop competing in the 70s? So yeah, it wouldn't have been then, but I remember meeting him, or my family tells me about meeting him as a child. But then I met him as an adult, because when he went on the campaign trail, he came to visit soldiers to do his campaigning. Because I mean, he was on the Republican ticket, so of course you want to get the troops behind you, because by and large, that's one of the groups that Republicans pander to. Not that Democrats don't. But he was very smart. One of the things he did, he actually came to see us during the war. And when he got on the ground, it's a cool story. So in war, different people are in different places. You know, some people are like us, we're up in the front, you know, doing God's work, or, you know, whoever's work you want to call it. I wouldn't necessarily, that's a figure of speech. I wouldn't necessarily call what we did God's work. But doing the hard work, we'll say, doing the fighting. And then there's people who are a little bit further back who are doing the support and stuff. Everybody's important, but the guys up front kind of have a bravado and a swagger to them, and because they're under fire a lot more. I mean, there were nights where I got so used to being under fire that I was able to sleep during gunfights that weren't necessarily ones I was in, but were close enough to me that I could hear them. And I remember Arnold comes out, and he's like, he was just doing Terminator 3 at the time, I want to say. Like, he had just filmed it. It hadn't come to theaters yet, but he brought a copy of it with him to the desert to show to the soldiers. And so when he showed up, you got to remember, Arnold was a soldier once upon a time. And he shows up. He's like, all right, take me to the guys. I want to show the guys that are out there bleeding. I'm going to show them some love, right? And so they try to take him to, like, the support guys, like the I don't want to disparage anybody. They wanted to take him to a place where it was safe, basically. And he told him, no, I'm going up to the front where the dudes, where we were. Like, I'm going up to the front to show these guys my movie. And that, you know, I had a lot of respect for him, because he was like, yo, I don't want to go where it's safe. These dudes are putting their life on the line, and I'm running for office. And not just that I'm running for office, But, I am running for office, and I want these dudes to believe in me. And they're not going to believe in me if I'm hanging out back here and they're up there bleeding. Like, if they're going to ever believe that I'm trying to do good things, I have to show them that I'm doing good things, right? And so he did that. But there is no failure. Like, if I'd have been able to talk to him about my goals, at the time I couldn't bodybuild in the Army because you can't put on that much weight. And he would never walk up to me and be like, you totally let me down, dude. You didn't get to 500 pounds. No, he said you were in the fight and you didn't give up. You stopped because it was the right move for your health. So there is no failure. You've got to get out of this mindset that if I put a video up and it doesn't go viral, that it's a failure. If I don't have 10,000 subscribers in a year, it's a failure. It's not. Nothing that you do that moves you closer to the goal, even if it's just 4 views, is a failure, guys and ladies. It's not failure. Those of you trying to lose weight, when you only lose 0.4 pounds this week, or maybe heaven forbid you put on 0.4 pounds, it's not a failure because you're still in the fight. The failure is when you get off the scale and you say F it and you go to the refrigerator and you get something out of there that you shouldn't, okay? The failure is when you get out of the fight and you quit. It's not failure when you're still in the fight, okay? Cam Newton in the Super Bowl is not a failure. How many other people went to the Super Bowl this year? How many other quarterbacks besides Peyton Manning, and forget the backups, how many other starting quarterbacks went to the Super Bowl besides the winning team and the losing team? Was Carolina a failure? Well, not when you compare them to the other 30 teams that didn't get to go. And the fact that their team is still going to be good next year, and he's going to take away valuable lessons that he learned in that game about how to keep his composure, about how to motivate his team when he's down. I watched him. One of the things that combatants and soldiers can notice in other people is the will to fight, and he lost it. He lost it early in the game because they rattled him. And what a lot of people don't understand in watching him with his soldiers, his team, they rely on his energy to keep it moving. All his antics and stuff like that, people think it's bravado. No, he's keeping his men in the fight. And when he stops doing that because he's rattled and he's angry and he loses his composure, his team falls apart. Guarantee you he won't do that crap next year. He'll sit down and evaluate. What did I do wrong? Well, when I started getting a beating, I lost confidence in myself and I lost my composure and I let my team down. But it wasn't a failure because he'll come back next year that much more hungry. That bear will be on the street chasing him. And guess what? He'll probably, it's very hard to make it in the Super Bowl, but argue if he makes it there again next year, mark my words, he will dismantle whatever team they play against. Okay? So you got to stop thinking in terms of pass and failure. I think part of the problem is school makes us dumb. We learn so much crap in school that doesn't matter. Like Archduke Francis Ferdinand was shot heard around the world. Like, what? Like, what are you doing with that information? How is that helping you add resources to your family to help you take care of the people that you're responsible for? Okay? Anyway, so there's no pass or fail here. There's just goals and will. And so just like Cam Newton, you don't lose that will to fight just because you get in the ring and Mike Tyson uppercuts you and now you want to quit because, this hurts. This hurts, yo. Working on YouTube hurts. It hurts so bad every time I get 4 views. Every single person's been that. But every person that has success, one of the most profound things I heard from, and we're acquaintances now, I won't necessarily call her my friend, but we're acquaintances. One of the girls that spoke at the conference who was a creator, it was one of the most profound things, probably the most profound thing. She was like, keep working even when it feels and seems like it's not working. Don't quit. Because just keep doing what you're doing even when it seems like it's not working. Now, granted, if you're doing something wrong, don't do that. But what she's saying is don't lose your will to fight because it's hard when you know you're doing something right. And here's the measurement. Is there momentum? Was it 4 views yesterday? Was it 3 tomorrow? Did it shoot up to 6 the day after that? And then, heaven forbid you get your first 100 view video. And maybe, I don't know, you have one get up to 30,000 like Anna did. Because here's what and you may not be a fan of these types of people, but smart people learn from smart people. That's another takeaway. Stop the overly judge. Another thing to measure, if you're an overly judgmental person, you think everything on the internet. If you're overly cynical or overly judgmental, you think everything on the internet is a scam. So Tony Robbins talks about, one of his quotes is, be thankful for when you lose, not fail, when you lose, because when you win, you party, but when you lose, you ponder. And so what happens is you get 3 views instead of that 4. You're going to start thinking, what did I do wrong? You're going to look at it. Then you're going to do the thing that gets you to 6. Ooh, pardon me, guys. Whew, let me get some water. So you want to talk about will to fight, working through a sinus infection to bring you guys some love, right? Then you're going to do the thing that gets you to 100. Then you're going to do what Anna does and realize, wait a minute, part of the equation here is making content that people want or need. It's not just about me having fun and showing my passion. It's about me giving something back to the community. Let me make this video that everyone's been asking me for in my comment section. Next thing you know, ranked first in Google search, ranked first in YouTube search with over 30,000 views. Because when she lost, she took inventory of what didn't work so that she could turn that into a win. But she never, ever considered any of those steps. Every video that you make that sucks, and let's face it, the first videos we make suck. And if your first videos don't suck, you started too late. Not my quote, that comes from the guy who started LinkedIn. He says, if you are not embarrassed of your first product, then you started too late. You waited too long. You perfected too much. You nitpicked. Okay? She figured it out from those losses. And those losses, they stack up and they get hard. And, losses in the gym come in the form of not gaining weight the way you want to, or not getting your musculature to look the way you want. But the only way to guarantee you're never going to have the musculature that you want is to quit working. Okay? Do you want it bad enough to hurt? Do you? Seriously. I'm not asking this rhetorically. Do you want whatever your YouTube goals are to hurt? Because if you don't, you can never be a ninja. Because anybody that becomes a ninja knows what it means to hurt. And I'll tell you why I use the ninja example a lot. It's a term that a lot of people toss around on the internet. I think they really don't know a ton. I don't know a ton about ninjas, but I know a little bit. And one thing from pop culture that, is not, pop culture never properly portrays or represents everything. But if you've ever seen the movie Azumi about the female ninja, if you've seen it, then you know how she became a ninja, which, basically these children are kidnapped at an early age and raised by their master who, becomes kind of like their father figure. And he trains these kids for years until it's time to put them into the service of the shogunate, or of, whatever master, whatever army or daimyo they're serving. And you want to know how they become ninjas? These kids that he's basically raised his whole life, he takes them out to a field. And he says, okay, here's your last training exercise. Everybody pair up. And so they think they're going to do some sparring, some sword fighting. Everybody pair up. You're going to fight each other to the death. And those of you that are still standing at the end of this are the ninjas. Are you willing to hurt because you want something so bad that you can't let go? You can't let go of the dream. You can't let go. And then you figure this out, motivation will never be another problem for you because you'll be doing what you love. Like, I don't need to get motivated to come do these videos. You want to know what my motivation stems from? My desire to help people. My desire to impart something into your life from something that I've learned from people way smarter than me to make you better. Okay? I don't need any more motivation than that. The fact that my nose hurts, the fact that I can barely talk, I don't care. Because I made a commitment, and I'm going to keep that commitment, short of me losing my voice completely where we'll have to end. But bottom line is I want it bad enough to hurt tonight. Can you say the same thing about yourself? And if you can't, then I don't want you complaining about what other people have and you don't have. Because they wanted it bad enough to hurt. A lot of these people that have success in YouTube been here 10 years. You've been here 6 months. You think you make awesome content. And where's my 40 million? Come on, bring it on. No. You didn't pay your dues. You know what I mean? Come on. So anyway, I really want to drive those 2 points home. If you're having trouble with procrastination, stop looking for motivation. Stop getting motivational videos that we're going to have a dream. And to have a dream, we're going to have hope. And to have hope, like, stop it. Because that's not going to get you out of bed at 6 o'clock in the morning to go run. What will get you out of bed is, so for the dudes in here, because this is something I deal with some of the dudes, especially younger guys that I work with, who may not be married and they've got a young lady that they may have an eye for. But let's say these guys are a little bit out of shape. And the girl they like looks like Katy Perry. And so what I usually tell guys is, if you want Katy Perry, you need to look like Russell Brand, yo. Like, you're not going to come up to Katy Perry looking like freaking Grimace from McDonald's and think that he's such a nice person. Let me just go out with him because he's, you know. So one of my mentors told me what he did for one of his friends, and I kind of use it on other people. He said what he did for one of his friends in that same boat was, he said, dude, why don't you tape a picture of your dream girl to your fridge so that every time you got to go get some food you should be eating, you got to look at her. And I take it a step further, like, put a picture of your dream girl on your fridge, and every time you go down there to eat something you shouldn't, you apologize to her. Like, I get a little bit more aggressive with it. But the real truth of the matter is, stop putting stuff in your fridge that you think your willpower is going to eat. You have no willpower. Cut that out. If there's Captain Crunch in the house, you're going to eat Captain Crunch, G. Stop making provision for your failure, too. Or for your losses, I'll say, since we're in a there is no failure mode. Stop making provision for your losses, right? Stop giving yourself outs. But you have to want it bad enough. And so what I find with a lot of people is they want Katy Perry, but they don't want to hurt. Everybody wants to be a Navy SEAL and go do some sexy stuff, but nobody wants to go through buds and the training that guys have to go through to become that. Are you kidding me? Nobody wants to go through that beating in order to become whatever it is you're trying to become. Nobody wants to do 1,000 jump shots a day to become Michael Jordan. Everybody wants to be Michael Jordan and get all the rings and all the accolades and all the praise about being the best, maybe one of the best athletes that's ever lived. Nobody wants to put in the work. Everybody wants to be Kobe Bryant, but nobody wants to make 3,000 jump shots every single day. So, my question to you is, if you don't want it bad enough to hurt, then figure out how to want it bad enough to hurt. Don't get to be old and then look back and be like, man, I really should have started that. Like, don't turn 35 and be like, man, I really should have started that YouTube channel back when I was 25. I was listening to those videos B was doing, and man, I should have done that. Because now there's 4 billion people on YouTube because the world has internet now. And man, if I'd have been there, if I'd have hung in there back in 2016 and not quit, I'd have been the next PewDiePie or whatever. You feel me? So you got to learn how to cultivate desire. And part of learning how to cultivate desire is going through some of the pain and then coming back the next day, even when it hurts. But part of cultivating desire, too, is knowing who you are and what is it that you really want. Because part of the problem with your desire can't be can be. Your desire probably shouldn't be, I want 1 million subscribers, because that's not a thing. It's a milestone, but just having 1 million subscribers doesn't represent something of great value. Instead, have something that drives you, like what gets me up every day to come talk to you guys. Because rest assured, like if I just wanted to grow a channel, there's things I'd be doing much differently than coming here for 3 to 6 hours every week and talking to you guys about this stuff. If I wanted to grow it faster, this will still grow, but it'll take longer because there's less people looking for this every day. More people are looking for distractions and entertainment. It's another thing too. Watch how much entertainment you're taking in. Like, for every show you watch, you should be reading a book. You know what I mean? Like, you got to start doing that. That's what the people who are winning do. You think it's just all about they got help or someone in some cases, yeah, Paris Hilton was given money. But a lot of people out there hustled, man, and they got smart, and they got around people that knew what they were talking about instead of just listening to all their friends tell them stuff. And your friends aren't even on YouTube. Why are they advising you on what you should? Here's what I think you should do for your channel. Have you ever made a video before and put it on YouTube? Well, no. Then what are you talking about, right? So a part of cultivating that desire is knowing what makes you get out of bed every morning. What is the thing when you get up out of bed, if this is you, to go to a job you don't like, because you got to do it. What is the thing you wish you were doing instead? And if it's YouTube, then what is it on YouTube that draws you to it, that seems so enticing to you? And it can't just be, I want to make money playing video games. That's baloney. All right? You got to figure out what your desire is. Part of the reason, like when people come to the gym, they're like, I just want to get in shape. Okay, why? You know, when you look at why I like being in shape, well, one, I like being healthy. Two, I have kids that I'd like to be able to chase around, you know, into my older age. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to be the dude at 50 who can't throw the football with his kids. You know, and I'm nowhere near 50, but the point is I'm doing the things now so that, you know, in decades to come when I do get to that point, then I can look back and say, yo, I'm really glad I spent that time in the gym. And I won't get there and be like, man, I really wish I had spent some time in the gym. So you got to figure out what it is. What is the thing that you're getting up for every day? What is the thing that's going to make you happy? Because that's where you're going to find the core of your desire. Okay, we talk a lot about this in the academy too, helping you flesh that out. And then realizing there's no failure, man. There's no failure in 4 views. That's 4 more views than the dude who's not doing it got. Right? And here's the other one, y'all. Like, can we do this one, please? This is something that really gets me fired up. I'll try to keep the soapbox to a minimum here, but so if it's, you know, do you want it bad enough to hurt? Realizing that there is no failure. And 3, can we please do this? Can we be grateful? Can we do that? Can we be happy that we got 4 views? And stop comparing ourselves to everybody else? You know, I'll make it personal. Can I be happy with my life the way it is, even though I don't have everything that I'm dreaming about yet? Can I be happy and grateful and thank God for the blessings that I do have because I have friends that didn't get to come home to their families? I think we owe those who've gone before us a debt of humility and thanks, because there are people literally who don't have it as good as you. You know, I've been to other countries. I've been to a lot of other countries, by the way, not just war. I've seen places, you know, all these people get on their soapboxes about how America's this and corporations are that. Go live in any other country for a month. And then when you come back here and you kiss the grass with all of our corruption and all of our foolishness, and you thank God that you were born in the United States and that you don't have to pimp your sister out for $2. And I know this is kind of an adult conversation. If there's kids watching this, I apologize. But that's the reality of the world. If you're younger, you are growing up in a place where you need to thank God or whomever you think. It doesn't have to be God if that ain't what you believe in. But you better thank somebody every single day that you were born on this soil. Okay? And then bringing it back to the YouTube space, can we be grateful? And I'm talking to myself too. Please understand that I am not preaching at anybody. I don't teach, preach, or talk about anything that I haven't at least looked in the mirror and said that I need to walk through it too. Sometimes I need to be more grateful. Sometimes I need to be reminded that I have friends that have been shot in the face, friends that have lost fingers, friends that didn't make it home, friends that died after they got home. Okay? Sometimes I have to be thankful. I have 2 legs to walk on. I can do PT. Maybe I owe it to them to not be lazy and go to the gym because they can't run. Maybe you owe it to the people who don't have enough money to get access to the internet to make any type of revenue off the work they do on YouTube. Maybe you owe them some gratitude because you do. And instead of painting a little pity party for yourself because you don't have 40 million subscribers yet and you think you make great content and feeling sorry for yourself, maybe be a little bit humble and a little bit grateful and thank whoever you think for what you do have. And I guarantee you that if you do this, your viewers will take notice. All right? Every person that comes here and becomes a subscriber, every one of them knows how much I appreciate that. Why? Because when they send me messages, I respond to every fracking one of them. Unless, some of them I get are just malicious racism. And actually, some of those I do respond to because it's fun for me. I don't know. I like dealing with ignorant people sometimes because I get kind of a sadistic joy out of watching people who are racist and stupid get angry over the fact that I'm not angry and I'm smarter than they are. Maybe that's a flaw in my character, but it's progress, not perfection. I've heard my mentor say many times. So, stop having pity parties about what you don't have. Be thankful for what you do have. Realize that there is no failure, and then become willing to hurt. And again, when I say hurt, guys, I'm talking figuratively. I'm not talking about doing yourself, mental or emotional or physical pain. I'm talking about when it gets hard and you want to quit, you push through that. That's the hurt that I'm talking about. And a better way to say it is friction. Like, are you willing to go through the friction? Like, I'll give you an example. I was training yesterday. I was doing ab work. The little wheel where you roll out? Now, I'm not a light person, okay? I weigh more than 200 pounds. I am the size of an NFL linebacker. When I do the ab roll thing, it's not like a person weighing 135 pounds doing it. I have to get my big, over 200 pound self, and I'm long. Like, I have the arms of someone who's 6'6", and I'm a little bit shorter than that. And I got to reach, and then, like, I remember I wanted to do 8, and I got to 6, and everything in me was just like, let's just go home. Let's go home and eat a bunch of chocolate, because this hurts. And then that thing in the back of my brain said, nope, push through. And, like, literally, I'm trying to push through it in, physical duress. I'm not necessarily like an injury type pain, but it hurt. But, people like me are able to look back at the victory and be like, yep. And that's why when people get to a certain level of success, they get impatient with a lot of people who complain. It's just like, dude, stop complaining and work. Take all that energy you got feeling sorry for yourself and do these 3. Guarantee you'll start to see an increase in everything you're trying to do. You got to remember, the stuff that I'm teaching here ain't just for YouTube. I hope everybody's figured out that this little YouTube gaming thing is a Trojan horse for me to bring you knowledge from people way smarter than us. Okay, so to empower you in your life, that positive impact that I talk about all the time. Okay? So that's what I got. Let me shut my mouth. I'm sure there's been several comments since I've been talking here. Are there questions? What did you guys say when I asked you if you were willing to hurt? Let's see. My desire is to entertain. Why? What do you get out of entertaining people? Go deeper. Think deeply, guys. No simple... the other thing, too. No shortcuts. Okay? No simple canned answers. I look to entertain people. Why? Stop looking for... And I'm not picking on you. I'm just using it as an example. Stop looking for these needle in the haystack answers to everything in life that are just going to make it easy for you. Why do you want to entertain people? What do you get out of it? And I'm not asking you to tell me. I want you to know for yourself, right? Because what happens when nobody finds you entertaining? What are you going to do then? Is your desire to entertain still strong enough? And maybe you're the most entertaining person on the planet. I don't know. But go deeper. Why do you want to entertain? Because that why is going to propel you to become a better entertainer. Celicroy Knight says, my girl looks better than Katy Perry, in my opinion. Yeah, I just used Katy Perry because that was what this guy liked. I'm not saying she's the pinnacle of amazingness. But, Oh, Sid. Yeah, my brother Osid. All right. All right, so what questions do you guys have? Galactic Gaming says, Alloy, do you live in D.C.? If you do, we can meet up sometime. I'm guessing you do from the Nats hat. Yeah. Yeah, I'm originally from D.C. Let's see. Pain is only temporary. But if I have to hurt in order to be in a position to feed children more than one meal a day, yeah. And most fathers would. Todd Link says, I want to make people laugh and find a place where they can go when they need something to make their day better. Because I've been there and I know how hard. There you go. Some good motivation there. So yeah, I never want you guys to hear my soapbox and my impassioned speeching as if I'm preaching at you. I never speak from a place of judgment. I speak from a place of experience. So a lot of the things that I harp on are things that I've had to eradicate from my own life. Ungratefulness, pride, arrogance, hating. You know, these are things that I've had to eradicate from my own life. Not so much a picker of nits. I don't really have a personality for that. Nitpicking actually exhausts me. But procrastination, sure. Cynicism, yeah, a little bit maybe. So yeah, apparently based on your answers to the earlier video, you guys were better off than I was at my worst. Because I was at least 3 of them, if not all of them, pretty bad. Even though I did ask you to pick which one you were worst at. So Galactic Gaming says, my motivation is to bring together the gaming community. But you need to, the example I always use is, I have a great-grandmother who's 95 years old. When you have a vision like that, it needs to make sense to her. Because if she doesn't understand it, it's not that other people aren't capable of understanding what you're trying to do. It's that they're not going to invest any of their brain power to expound on what you just said. Like you need to be more specific. Like how are you bringing? Like are you bringing them together for a cookout? You know, what do you mean by together? You know, these are things that you need to think deeply about. When you say you're bringing the gaming community together, what does that actually mean? Because that's kind of just not really a cliche, but it's just, you know, bringing people together is like a figure of speech. Like you have to really think about what you want there. So Celicroid says, I want to entertain because I want to throw out what I can in the world. And if at least one person is entertained by my videos, then I know I made somebody happy. Okay, so making people happy makes you happy. There you go. It's good. And if no one finds me entertaining, then I'm happy. But at least I tried, and it drives me. There you go. Good. Because making other people happy makes you happy. You're willing to work. Good. And by the way, when I get you guys to flesh this stuff out, I'm not doing it as if I believe you haven't fleshed it out. But you also need to be able to articulate it. Here's an example that I use. I'll give you kind of a nugget that's, I haven't released this yet, but it's going to be coming up in the Academy. You guys are going to sneak peek. One of the things that I talk about is discovering your YouTube destiny. And in a later video, one of the things I'm going to explain is one of the reasons why you want to have a simple explanation for what you do is because you never know who's going to ask you. What if PewDiePie goes on Twitter and says, the first 100 people that send me their one sentence why they're on YouTube, I'm going to automatically put them into my new MCN and promote their work. Are you ready for that? Because I can tell you right now, bringing the gaming community together, as much as I get that it's passionate for you, is not going to win that contest. Okay? You got to be able to argue, because you never know who you're going to run into, and they may be someone that can help you. But if they can't understand what you're talking about, they're not going to engage. Kaz says, I could be nitpicky too. I had to suppress that a bit when I started working. My boss has terrible spelling. Yeah, so, different people wire differently. Some of it's our experiences, some of it's our personality temperaments. And understand, a lot of things I'm sharing with you, even though a lot of it's rooted in science, it's not all definitive and exact, you know. I say there's certain temperaments that are prone to nitpickery, but, you know, I know other temperaments that are just as nitpicky, if not worse. Some of it's just experiential. All right. Let's see here. There you go, Kaz. Kaz says, I like talking to people online, which I know firsthand. Kaz is an awesome person. Putting up videos might give me more people to talk to. It certainly would. Maybe I can start discussions about things I like to talk about. Excellent. I think that's great. Very simple, to the point. My 95-year-old great-grandmother would understand it. So you're winning. What is motivation? Something that drives you. Ever the Pixel Pusher says, "Hey B, could you expand a little bit on how one should deal with family members who don't support your dream and are constantly beating you down for it?" Yeah, I can expand on that. When I was 15, I had made up in my mind that I wanted to play in the NFL. Now, you can make the argument that I wasn't good enough. You'd probably be right. But what I didn't do, I allowed family pressure to push me instead of chasing what I really desired, to push me into basically becoming a soldier. Okay? Not like it wasn't like my father. Like, matter of fact, my father wasn't even involved. he was a little bit more supportive in general terms of the football dream. But yes, I have lived through people not supporting your dream. I'll give you the advice I tell people, or not advice. I'll share my experience was I caved to the pressure, and I'll tell you this: I am probably a better man for having caved because of the experiences I had. But for a lot of years, I hurt because I still could have become a soldier and pursued the football dream, and I didn't. Right? And I should have. Because I needed to show myself either that I could or couldn't do it, but instead I had to live with the question. So take the guilt, take the beating, to the degree that you can help it, but still pursue your dream. The suggestion that I'll make, not knowing your full situation, this is something I still do in my life, having learned this lesson. So I don't know how many avid Bible scholars I have here. But if you're familiar with even the history, like even if you don't want to read it from a spiritual perspective, just some of the history in there is good for learning things. So if you read the history of Joseph, who was given this vision about what he was going to do and what God had intended with him, he shared that with his siblings, and his siblings basically threw him in a ditch to die. Didn't really go well for old Joe at first, but he ended up coming out on top and winning, and actually was in a position to keep his family alive during a huge famine. So it worked out for him. But the thing I took away from that lesson is not so much a grandiose spiritual teaching. It was, don't share your dreams with people who don't share them. Just zip it up. Don't talk about it. I do not share things that I'm working on or like deep-seated dreams that I have with people who will not help me achieve them. Now, I may share them with people who can, like mentors who can help me tweak and understand you may not want to do this because of your skill set, and you're like people that know me and who still have my best interest at heart and may kind of steer me, I'll share it. But someone who's just a cynic or a judgmental person who's just not like, you need to grow up and stop playing video games on the internet. Like, if that's what you're dealing with, stop talking about it. Don't engage with those people. There's people in my life that I don't share. Like, I don't even share what I'm doing, like, on the business side of things with them. Because, some of the people, not people that I'm particularly close to, because people that I usually keep close to me, they're close to me because I don't have this problem with them. But people, outliers, people that I see once every year or so, there's people like, so what are you doing now? Oh, I'm still, taking care of business, feeding the kids. That's the answer. Like, I don't tell them anything about this because I don't want to hear their sob story because they didn't chase any dreams about, well, you gotta, just be careful and do what's safe. No, what law of physics said you gotta do what's safe? And what hyper successful person got there by being overly safe? Okay, so to expand on it, if there's something that's burning inside of you that you at least have to just test whether or not it's going to work for you, do the math, but I would lean toward just personally doing it and doing the best I can to make it succeed. And if I have naysayers in my camp, I keep, like, even if they're people that I love, because you're talking about family members, I don't, not go around them. I just don't share that part of my life with them. You know what I mean? Like, there's things I do, like there's spiritual teaching type stuff that I do that's not related in any way, shape, or form to video games or what I do here. There's certain people I don't share that with because they are not respectful when it comes to disagreeing with me. Like, it's one thing to be of a different faith or an atheist and get along all day because I don't propose to know all the right answers. But if I got to hear a speech every time, you come around about what I'm doing, then I just, look, man, I'm cool. I don't engage. So, guard your dreams is what I'm saying. Don't be like Joseph and go back to all your brothers and say, hey, God said I'm going to be the king of the world. And the next thing you know, you're in a ditch. Just keep your mouth shut. When it's time to talk about dreams, just do your work, do whatever it is that's keeping the family members happy, especially if they're close family members like a father or a mother. And just to the degree that you can do it and be respectful to them, continue to chase your dreams in silence. That's what I would say, my friend. Hopefully that helped you out a little bit. Okay. Let's see here. When people ask me what I'm doing, I say, I'm a girl. Yeah, I used to tell people, like, I remember one time I went into a business meeting with some high-level people who I didn't have any issue with them, but I was in an environment where I didn't fit. Like, you throw me in a bureaucracy, that's why I run, like, my message forums and online communities very differently than here are the 17 rules that everyone must follow to be a happy member. Like, you won't find any of that crap on my websites because, frankly, it's just like, if I have to write a list of 17 things to do to make you not suck, if that's what you need to not suck on one of my websites, I'm not recruiting you for my website. Like, no, just get out. I don't attract those types of people. So, going back to, so I walked into a business meeting in a very bureaucratic, it's important what your title, blah, crap is. And so, like, when people were, and I was wrong, and I made a couple people mad when I did it, but I didn't care. People were asking who I was because I walked in with one of the more senior people. I told everybody that I was his bodyguard. Like, and the weird thing is, like, I said it jovially, like I thought it would get a laugh, and everyone was just like, oh, okay, then we'll just go back to having this meeting about nothing because this is a bureaucracy where we don't talk about things that actually affect change. Like, I was joking. Like, nobody even has a sense of humor. So I'm just laughing at Jolly's comment and relating to it. Over-support is bad in my experience. Also, my parents sounds like those people. They told you it's okay, it's safe. Sid says pyramids, crystal Scientology. Yeah, theological discussions don't have to be a doozy. What everybody has to recognize is that not everybody's going to see eye to eye. Now, there are people with very severe cognitive biases which won't do that. But you're never going to come on one of my streams and, one, have me censor things that I think about, within reason, or two, try to make somebody feel like they're lesser than because they don't see something my way. I wouldn't do that with a game review. Why would I do it with, like, if you think this game that I reviewed that I didn't like is the best thing that ever happened? I mean, we may debate a couple of different points just because it's good for conversation, and I enjoy that. But outside of that, I'm not, we got to get out of the business of trying to convince people that we're right because it's impossible. Like, it's psychologically impossible. And that's why they become a doozy, because both parties try to convince the other one that they're right, not knowing that the cognitive biases we have in our mind scientifically does not, like, no one ever walked into an argument and at the end was like, you know what, because you yelled at me for the last hour, I think you're right. I believe everything you're saying now, so let's leave together peacefully. No. You got to let people be who they are, man. Got to let people be who they are. Blackbeard says, just joined the session, Alloy. Yes, you can see the board behind me. May not make a whole lot of sense, and the 4 types of people are no longer up there, but the 4 types of people were procrastinators, people who are, and extremes, like extreme procrastinators, overly cynical people, overly judgmental people, and nitpickers were the 4 types of people that are up here. And what I said earlier in the show was not that those people specifically are guaranteed to fail, but people who exhibit those traits to an extreme and don't get them in check are in danger of being guaranteed to fail. Okay? So that's kind of a brief summary to bring you up to speed. Okay, so it doesn't look like there's too many other questions. Yeah, so Kaz says technically some people may consider me an atheist. I don't consider it too important though, so yeah, there you go. If more people lived like that, we'd have a lot less fights. You know, yeah, I think any discussion should be open. As long this is what I live by, and this is one of the things where, you know, one of the things I try to live by. I think it was Warren Buffett that said it. He says, don't try to argue with someone else to try to tell them they're wrong unless you're so well versed in what they believe that you could argue their points for them. You know what I mean? Like, I have a friend of mine who's an atheist that consistently wants to get in scientific debates with me, and this dude's like an HR manager. I'm like, dude, I am a scientist. Like, I can have this argument. Like, I will. It's funny because when he tries to debate with me, I kind of, because I'm not a debater. Like, I don't try to convince people of stuff. But and what it is he was a person of faith who struggles with it, and so he's kind of jumped into the atheist bucket, and he's torn. So what he does is he tries to have these debates to convince himself, and like I totally start throwing mathematical probabilities at him that, you know, his non-scientific brain can't really. Like, I watch his brain melt because he'll get into a debate with me and I'll make a point and he's like, well, wait a minute, that's what I was going to say. So you're agreeing with me? And I'm like, yes, I'm agreeing with you that some of the stuff that I believe sounds absolutely crazy. I don't need a PhD in science to realize, or even in theology, to know that some of the stuff that I profess to think is borders on insane to, you know, a rational human mind. And so he can't take it. He's like, why aren't you arguing with me? I'm like, because I've learned from smart people, arguing with somebody is a waste of time. I'd rather let you know that I see merit in where you are coming from, because then we can have an intelligent, enriching conversation versus you yelling at me at the lunch table about what you don't know if you believe. You know what I mean? So, because I think I threw some quantum physics thing at him to help. Like, he was trying to make a point, and I actually put well, here's what you're trying to say. He was like, wait a minute, you're not supposed to be making my points for me. I'm like, well, you need to actually learn your points before you try to make them. But, you know, you just got to get along, man. Like, show love. Like, just got to show love to people. Good Lord, it's not that hard to get along on Earth. Humans make it hard, man. Yeah, Heavy Metal Bake Sale says it well. People who are comfortable in their beliefs don't try to prove their beliefs to others. Yeah, I don't know if that's a black and white 100% true thing, but it has been true in every situation I've ever, like, the way I always say it is, another analogy that I've always used, because when you get around people who've never been in, like, rough situations, a lot of times they try to play themselves up. Like, if they've never lived in the hood, you know, like, I remember living in a neighborhood where we had the neighborhood crackhead, and we, like, all the characters from the hood movies, which are overly sensationalized and not true, but all of the characters that you would assume would be in the hood are in this little narrative. You know, and people who have never been in it, like there used to be this badge of honor with my generation, especially with gangster rap, where it was like if you came from a hard neighborhood, then you were just cool or whatever. And I remember, you know, having been in some rough spots, man. Matter of fact, I was living in the hood at the time this happened. These two dudes were having a debate about which one of them came from a tougher neighborhood. And like the story continues to escalate to the point where the dude just is out of debate. And so he just makes up, he's like, man, where I come from, man, the gangs, when they initiating somebody, yo, they hang him upside down by his feet from the top of the skyscraper, and you got to paint the gang sign. I'm not making this up, by the way. You got to paint the gang sign on the side of the building upside down, and if you mess it up, they drop you. And me and my boy are sitting at the other table like, what in the literal F are these fools talking about? Really, dude? That's the story? That's the neighborhood you come from? The upside down shoe spray paint gang? Like, you gotta be freaking kidding me. And what I remember saying, because my boy, like, I didn't grow up in the hood. I lived in it as an adult. My boy grew up in it that I was sitting with, and he's just shaking his head like, what is wrong with these dudes? I said, you know what, Jay? So my buddy's name was Jay. I said, what I find really interesting about this is because my dad comes from the streets, G. Like, my dad comes from the hood. It's still the hood today. That's how legit this place is. And, yo, this dude, so I've heard the stories of my, you know, pops growing up. And I just, knowing my father and how, because he brought a lot of that street mentality into a very successful career. And he was just like, I was like, you know what, my father, what I really learned from him is that people that are actually tough ain't got to tell nobody. You know, people that know they are right, or at least, like you said, they are convinced about their conviction. They don't feel the need to convince anybody because, like in the video we did the other night, there's no cognitive dissonance. I don't need to convince you that Xbox One is better than PlayStation 9. Because frankly, I don't care. And two, I'm confident and happy with what I'm doing. You know, I don't experience, you know, the cognitive biases play on us more to the degree that we don't develop ourselves. You know what I mean? And it's just funny, man. Like, that's the world we live in, is people are delusional and trying to purport themselves as something that they're not. And we're all guilty of it. Me too. I'm not judging anybody. But, you know. He said D.C., where even the mayor smoked crack. Oh, man. I'm telling you. That's hilarious. Can we have ghetto alloy? So Hickville says, I'm with you, Jolly. What did Jolly say? Okay. Oh, we're talking about faith systems. Watch out. See, look at this. A whole stream full of people being atheists and Christians and Protestants, and nobody's yelling at each other. It is possible, America. Look at that. We can have a civilized discussion because we started from the beginning to build a stronger community of people. And we've made that our mantra. We've made that our mission from the beginning. And people can all come together and be in harmony with one another. We don't all have to agree. We don't all have to see eye to eye. You know what I mean? We keep, and not just from the faith side of the house, but from the gaming perspective. So, like, the purpose of this channel was from the beginning to build a better. So, one of the other people earlier said to bring I think it was Galactic, said bringing the gaming community together. Well, that's what Alloy 7 isn't trying to bring it together. It's trying to establish it. You know, people talk about the gaming community. When the media says the community, it's just another way of saying a big group of people that are into something. Because if you ever listen to the news, they'll never just say, yeah, this large gaggle of black people showed up at the Krispy Kreme. Like, it's always the black community. Like, what? I never got my invite to the black community. When were they passing out the passes for membership? Because I never got mine. You know what I mean? And so what it also stems from is if you go back into civil rights, there actually was something called the black community because it was born out of necessity. There was a black community because there was also a not black community, and vendors and consumers had to come together to establish an economy. Some would even argue that integration, no, I'm way off the rails here, did a lot to harm some of the economic prosperity that was there. In a book called After Jackie, you can actually read about that, about how Martin Luther King actually feels that Jackie Robinson did more for civil rights than he himself did. Okay, and I'm not trying to derail it into rights, religious discussion. All I'm saying is that, you know, I wanted to build a commitment where this person cares about this person because each of our benefit depends on us caring about each other. Then you win. That's why you never see soldiers not getting along to some degree, because they depend upon one another for life. So a lot of what I'm bringing to the gaming community comes from my time as a football player and as a soldier, because you know on both battlefields, in order to win or to live and survive, it requires that you work together. And what I was noticing in the gaming community is everybody's in their little sect. So there's like the gaming atheists, the gaming Christians, the gaming Buddhists, and they're all screaming at each other for no reason. I mean, like, we're screaming at each other over freaking what machine we play our games on. And I wanted to bring a sense of, you know, calm the emotion, because humans are very emotional creatures. A lot of times we don't act out of rationality, we act out of emotion. Kind of quell the emotion a little bit, get everybody to listen to one another, and actually share things that are open for debate, open for discussion, but not open for fighting, and to get people to be a little bit more open-minded, man. Anyway, my keyboard is tripping. Here we go. What else? Yeah, the stream's still live. No, it's not crashing. It's just YouTube is slow. Or did it crash? Nope, we're still live. Just being silly. Okay, I have rambled enough. I think I've made the points that needed to be made tonight. Hopefully I did. You guys can continue leaving questions. I'm going to get ready. I'm going to give you guys some contact information, some ways to get in touch with me. I'm also going to give you some things that can really help you out if you are a creator and you're trying as best you can. And remember, like Yoda says, do or do not, there is no try. We ain't trying here at Alloy 7. We're applying what we know works. And when we find that something doesn't work, we stop it and move on to something else. So I've got a couple of things that I can help you all with in that regard. Specifically over on my website, alloy7.tv. That's us right there. You're going to find a couple of different things. You're already on my YouTube channel, but sometimes on YouTube stuff is hard to find. Okay? And I'm going to draw a map here if you guys will bear with me. So we've got the FAQ, we've got the monetization series, and we've got the mailing list. So this is kind of the first tier, and I drew that too big, but that's okay. The second tier, we've got our ebook. This is all going to make sense in a second here while I'm drawing this. The YouTube Gamer Survival Guide ebook. And this is the first time I've actually explained it this way on the stream. And then over here, we've got the YouTube Gamers Academy, which currently right now we're doing an SEO series. So there is a methodology here, moving from what's on the website, FAQs, monetization, the mailing list, the ebook, and then over here to the academy. So what you're going to find is that the goal of all of these different forms of media here, all right, is to turn you. This is the way the progression works with everything. Okay. You guys will forgive my horrible drawing. I was never a great artist. So the goal here is to take everyone, and I don't mean this in a disparaging way. I mean this in the purest sense of the word. So my goal when I started doing these kind of outreach, coaching, and what I like to call knowledge session videos, was to take people on a path. A lot of the folks that I was running into were very new or noobs. And so what all of these things are able to do is take you from the noob stage. And by noob, like I said, I don't mean that the derogatory way. I mean literally you're new. You don't know much about the YouTube platform as a creator. You're trying to learn. Or maybe even you've been here for a while, a couple of years maybe, but you haven't really figured out the trick that everybody's looking for, okay? So I built these things to progress, and this is really me walking you through the value of all the stuff that we offer you over on alloy7.tv. I'm sure at this point either Anna or Jolly Mage have posted links that you can get to these things from. So the FAQ, the monetization guide, and the mailing list are all basically completely free things that I do that really capture the person at that beginning stage. Okay, you're new, you're trying to get your stuff going on YouTube. You're trying to figure out where the pitfalls, where are the things that I should be doing early. And then what happens is, as you go across the line here, you eventually upgrade from being not really knowing a whole lot of anything, like even folks that don't know what equipment to buy, we talk about that to a degree. Then we move forward into the YouTube Gamer Survival Guide ebook, which is going to take you from that noob to that kind of that marksman. You know what I mean? Like you've had some training. You've gone through all of the practical exercises in the book. Because at the end of the day, the goal of all of this stuff is to get you towards your goals. You came here with goals in mind. You're either just starting off and you don't want to take forever to get to whatever your goals are, the people that you're trying to reach, the subscribers, and the viewership that you're trying to get, the message that you're trying to spread. And you don't want to spend the next 3 years figuring it out. Well, that's what we built this for. Start here, and this will get you enough to get you started, right? At least heading in the right direction. The ebook will then refine that. It'll take some very basic knowledge about how to actually start your page, what things to look out for, but then it'll walk you through some knowledge and some practical exercises to help you actually map out a lot of the stuff that you guys ask me about in these videos where I give you, a brief 2-minute answer. The book is actually going to walk you through how to do those things, how to come up with why you're here, how to come up with what value can I give to people outside of, I just want to entertain people. I'm actually walking you through how you flesh that out and to make it succinct and concise enough for potential viewers and even potential people who will support you financially to understand what you're doing in YouTube. And that's where the book doesn't just stop though at it doesn't just stop at practical exercise. It also has case studies. So I walk you through, you do the knowledge, you do the execution, and then you do, hey, here's what somebody doing it right looks like. Okay? So it's kind of knowledge, strategy, execution. It's knowledge, here's what somebody looks like when they do it right, so that you can copy it. Not copy their work, but you can copy what they're doing that works. And then you can apply it through the practical exercises. And then in those practical exercises, you're actually getting your channel in the right way. So like simple things, like when people go to your channel, they shouldn't just see a long list of everything you've been doing for the last 3 days, liking and commenting and stuff. They should see a layout that makes them want to be there and helps them understand what they just walked into. Okay? So it's going to help you with that. And then the academy is where we actually start the process to build you into a ninja. So you come in a marksman because you've been through the noob training, you've been through the marksman training. We get you through the academy, which again is knowledge sessions, but there's also practical exercises. There's also application of the knowledge. So in the academy, you're not just doing a practical exercise. You are getting through the knowledge session and then having to go through the rigor of what the knowledge session is about, and then answer questions such that you can fully understand what you're doing, all with the goal to get you to be a ninja. And the goal here is to make sure that it doesn't take you 6 years to reach whatever your goals are. And, some of your goals may take 6 years, like if it's to get 40 million subscribers, it's not going to do that for you overnight, but it will set the foundation properly such that, one, you will have a channel that can, if you implement it properly, still be relevant in years to come. It will evolve with the way that YouTube evolves because you will know the core elements that make a channel valuable. Not just the tips and tricks that get stuff seen, but the stuff that makes whatever you're doing malleable and actually work on YouTube with the audience that you're trying to target. It'll also help you find out who your audience is when you get to this level, and then actually going after that audience as a ninja. Okay? So the whole goal here is to accelerate you through the process. None of this existed in this form when I got here. It existed on web pages and Reddit, subreddit pages, and go to this guy's page, and this dude over here sells a $5 ebook. And I've read most of like the YouTube SEO ebooks, like the stuff that I wanted to make sure that my book was giving value before I put it out there. And so I read all of the ones I can get my hands on. And some of them are pretty good, but they're not really focusing on you. Like one of the chapters I talked about that's in the ebook is cultivating the desire. I actually talk about what that looks like, this cultivating of the desire, and why it's so imperative that you cultivate the desire to win, because if you don't do it, you won't have the strength to push through. You know, going through this, you're going to start to hit those roadblocks, but these are going to help you get over those roadblocks so that you can get to that next plateau. And that's really, so my whole goal is for you to build something of value that other people want to be a part of. You can build your community, help us collectively build a better gaming community where people are actually open-minded and accepting of people because we have knowledge. Because I'm telling you, knowledge will dispel. The more you learn, the more you realize you don't know half the crap you think you know. And it makes you more accepting of people. And so that's why I focus so heavily on this channel on knowledge, because that's the first element to get you to these things. Okay, if you have questions about any of this stuff, I wouldn't leave necessarily a comment here because it may get lost in the shuffle. You can send me a PM over on YouTube. You can also send an email to our team at info@alloy7.tv. And there, either me or someone on our team will actually, it's usually me because I'm the primary person who's going through all that stuff. But somebody from the crew will email you and say, hey, based on your question, like I had a guy, a really good guy, has a really, his channel is doing pretty well, especially because he can only make content sporadically. Had some very pointed questions about the ebook, for example. He's like, will your ebook help me do this? It was a very specific question. And I was able to break down for him, well, part of it will help you do this, but then parts of it won't because you already have an understanding of some of it. But at the end of the day, it'll help you refine. So, you know, and I didn't make a definitive statement. Yes, it'll do it for you, and yes, you need to buy it. I just gave him all the information that I thought he needed to make that decision for himself. Okay, so there's not going to be you're not going to email me and then I'm going to be emailing you every night like, hey, did you? That's nonsense. I'm going to give you whatever it is that you're looking for information-wise, as unbiased as I possibly can. Obviously, I think the products are pretty dang good. So if you email me and say, does your program suck? I'm going to say no. But if you've got questions, objective questions about what's in there, I will just give you the facts as they are, give you some ideas about how they can. If I honestly think it won't help you, then I'll steer you away from it. Like I had a guy actually ask for a refund recently just because English wasn't his first language. And that was totally cool. I was like, I didn't even think about that eventually we may have people from other countries trying to get at this and they may struggle with it. So maybe we, once it gets a little bit bigger, we'll start thinking about translating it and stuff like that. But that's essentially the path that I'm taking you on. Again, you can find all of this over at alloy7.tv. You can find me and I just gave you my email address, but you can also get me on Twitter and Snapchat. So Twitter is at TheSecondLetter, TheSecondLetter, the second letter, B, if it makes it a little bit easier to remember. And then at Alloy7 for Snapchat. I'm actually starting to transition into Snapchat. I like what I'm seeing there quite a bit better than I like Twitter. So I may transition. I tell my guys in the academy, don't get into this trap of trying to get on 6 different social media platforms. Do YouTube and maybe pick one other one. Yeah, that's it. Until you master them, and then you can branch out. Okay, so I'm thinking of transitioning from... I just don't know that Twitter is the right platform for the type of messaging that I'm doing, because it's usually either news or sensationalized quotes. Like the more pointed, I'm trying to get information across to people. Snapchat seems to really, and one of my mentors, actually, one of my business mentors, swears by, he's like, if you're not on Snapchat, you are messing up, and he's all over it. So I'm kind of copying what people are teaching me too. That's one of the benefits you get here, is just like I tell people to read and buy stuff and get into programs. I buy books. I'm buying new books all the time. I try to read at least 3 books a week. So I'm always buying books. I'm buying people's ebooks. Like I said, I got almost all of the SEO YouTube ebooks I could get off of Amazon. Read all of them. Thought some of them were pretty good, but none of them had the personal touch that, mine gets kind of into the not subconscious, but it gets into who you are as a creator and tries to bring you out so that you know who you are, you know where you're going, and you can actually set that platform properly. But I also go to coaching just like this, and I pay a lot more than I charge for this. I pay a pretty hefty penny and some of the coaching I get, obviously I don't pay for because I am connected to some of the very, very successful people in the world who actually give me help. And some people just help me out of the kindness of their heart. Like I've told guys on streams, I'm working right now with a Grammy-nominated artist to get some advice from them and their band, or their group rather, and just trying to work through some things that I'm dealing with on YouTube that I watched them do in music. And I needed some help. I'm like, I don't know everything. And the beauty is once I get the answers and can apply it and I know it works, I'll be able to bring that to you guys. I'll be able to put stuff like that in the academy. Like, hey, this is what so-and-so told me that they experienced in their music career, and this is how it helped them. And, but the goal here is acceleration. It's to get you out of procrastination. Remember, we don't want to be procrastinators. We don't want to be cynics, thinking everybody's out to get us. We don't want to be overly judgmental, thinking, I can't learn from books. You better start learning from books, even if it ain't mine. Find another one that works for you. And we don't want to be nitpickers. We want to be forward moving. We don't procrastinate. We get the tools we need to get on the road and start winning. And when we get the tools, we actually use them. Procrastinators, guys that have my book, haven't read it yet, or people that are in the academy and haven't started watching the video and doing their work yet. And I get it. You're busy. I harp on people for saying they don't have time. And in some cases, knowing some of the personal lives of the people that I work with, I do know that there are cases where you literally do not have time. So I'm not picking on you if that's you. I'm just beating up the other 99% of people who do have time and they're making excuses because they were playing Fallout 4 instead of reading books. Okay? If I told you how much time I actually spend playing video games every week, you'd probably be ashamed of me for being on a gaming channel. I do play, but it's probably not as much as many people think. Okay, so we've been through that. What are your questions now that I'm focused here? Hemlock Reaper said, I missed the beginning where narcissist part of the people who fail. Narcissists would include narcissism. Over narcissism could be like a root cause of all of them. So no, it wasn't a specific one, but someone who is overly narcissistic, you're going to find that root in all. So the four problem people were procrastinators, people who are extremely cynical, people who are overly judgmental, and people that are extreme nitpickers. And like I said, there's not just four. I picked four because if I put the 70 types of people that suck, we never would have got through the content. But these are the four that by and large I see give the people the most problems from the areas where I work. Okay? Like the cynics are the most hilarious ones because they're the ones that yap the most and do the least. They do no work. They just complain about the work other people are doing. And again, I'm not talking about people who build themselves as cynical, people that have a personality temperament that leads them to be more skeptical. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the overly cynical people that just hate everything and they're always criticizing somebody instead of doing I've got a couple cynics that follow me. And anytime I say anything, they have something to add to the conversation, which by the way adds no value. It's just them telling me how much they think I suck. And I'm like, I get that you think I suck and that you think I have ill intentions, and that's fine. I'm not trying to convince you that I don't. Because I can't. You have already made up in your mind your cognitive biases and your presuppositions in your mind. I'm not going to change them. I could cure cancer tomorrow, and that person would probably think I had some ulterior motive. Well, you just cured cancer for the money. Even if I did, millions upon millions of people have a better life, even though I wanted money. So anyway, that's what we talked about. What do we got here? Ocean says Fallout 4 has a lot of reading to do too. Yes, sir.